Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide coaches award program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide coaches award program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide coaches award program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide coaches award program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide coaches award program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide coaches award program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide coaches award program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide coaches award program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates,
with the name Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer is the head coach at Ohio State, one of the most successful coaches in the country. Well, Urban and I coached together at Notre Dame for 5 years. And about 4 years ago, Urban called me and said, this was a game changer. Of all the things he's ever done in coaching, this was a game changer. So I got on an airplane, went to Columbus, Ohio, and I met actually with Tim Kight, who is Brian's father. And Urban was absolutely right. And across this country, in major college football, they have taken something that for years and years and years was business-related, company-related, and put a blueprint into college athletics and all forms of athletics that really work. So I'm not going to take a lot of time, but we're all looking for the same thing. We're all trying to get our athletes, our children, everybody to make the right decisions and have a simple blueprint. We're all trying to say it, but we probably, like I did, always said it in different ways. This really crystallized and gives you a simple way, and everybody can use their own personality to use this. So bottom line, our whole staff's here. This is something that we've used over the last 4 years. I've used it in my personal life. I've used it in relationships. I've used it with our coaches, and this is a home run. So you guys take the next 50 minutes or hour and really lock into this, because I think it's something that will absolutely be beneficial to all of you. So without further comment, let me introduce to you Mr. Brian Kight.
I appreciate it. Was this one yours? Is that yours? Okay, cool. Was this somebody's that needed? Good morning. How are you guys? Awesome. Did anybody get caught outside in that hail last night? One of my colleagues said you should have done a post that said, "What the hail?" And I said, no, I shouldn't have done that. My dad should have. He's never missed a pun in his life. He loves that. I appreciate the introduction. It's good to see all of you. And we're just going to take about the next 50, 45 minutes or so, and we're going to dive into, and I'll put my social stuff back up if you guys want to reach out and connect. We're just going to dive into 3 things. And I mentioned it a little bit yesterday: leadership, culture, and behavior. This is called the performance pathway. And what I hope to do over the next 45 minutes is get your attention on how important and critical and systematic this pathway needs to flow inside your programs in the midst of all of the other stuff that you are dealing with. And I want to start maybe with the stuff first. And here's where I'd like to start. How many of you are, and I asked yesterday, but I want to ask again, how many of you are teachers or educators? You actually have a role at the school. Okay. How many of you are parents? Okay. Are the number of things you have to pay attention to as a coach, as a teacher, as a business person, as a parent, do you have to pay attention to more or less than in the past? Yeah. Is it coming at you faster or slower? And is it getting harder or easier? And there's always little spots where maybe those things aren't completely true, but as a general trend, we have to pay attention to more things coming at us faster, and they are getting more challenging. That is the nature of the world in which we live. And if we fast forward 7 years into 2025, do we expect it to be easier then? Now, our iPhones will go faster, but then we'll just be complaining why they don't always go that fast. Remember when dial-up used to be like, if you waited 60 seconds for the internet to load, that was a great day? I mean, shoot, sometimes if your mom wasn't on the phone, that was a great day for you to be able to get on the internet. Now, we don't even wait 10 seconds for a page to load on our phone. We just move on to whatever the next thing is. So I want to acknowledge this. As coaches, as teachers, as business professionals, as parents, as sons, daughters, friends, our world is going fast. There's a lot of things going on. And if we don't take and use some time to slow down and evaluate what's going on, we don't necessarily step back out into that real environment equipped with the simple tools and skills to go be successful and, in my view, elite at the roles that we are all playing. And in the bottom of my heart, I fundamentally believe that the role of an educator and the role of a coach in this country has never been more important than it is today. And it is not getting less important, but you are also under more scrutiny. You are also under more eyeballs. And there's a lot of really good stuff that comes with that. But there's also some challenges. I was having the conversation with my colleague today. As a parent, have you noticed the noise telling you how to be a good parent has increased? Have you noticed that? Like 15, 20 years ago, there weren't experts who were non-medical on immunization. But now we have a mom who reads Facebook for a year and thinks she's a medical expert on immunization. We have to fight against that now. And pick your thing. It could be a dad. It could be this. Dads are coaching experts. Well, they've always been that. But there's all this noise right now. And unfortunately, in the midst of the noise, the message can get lost. It's 99% noise, 1% message. And what I hope to get your attention on today for the next 40 minutes is that I want your attention on the 1% message of the role of leadership, culture, and behavior inside your program for you as a staff and for your athletes. Because this pathway, it's the physics of how things work. And let's reverse engineer it. Well, let's actually implement it, and then let's reverse engineer it. Leaders create the culture that drives the behavior that produces results. We can cause and affect this. Leaders create culture. Culture drives behavior. Behavior produces results. Reverse engineer it now. The results that we produce are a direct reflection of our behavior. If we want better results, we've got to have better game plans, resources, strategies, right? Because every time you build a better strategy, it always shows up in the win column, correct? Or sometimes you build what you think is a great strategy, and then what? We fail to execute. We don't communicate. We don't listen. The moment arrives and the time comes to execute our strategy, and we just don't get it right because we get afraid. Our ego gets too big. We don't listen, whatever it happens to be. Behavior is this component that underlies everything we do in our jobs. It underlies every process, it underlies every technology, it underlies every relationship, it underlies every piece of execution inside your program, whether you are Division I football or whether you are JV girls field hockey. The physics are constant and throughout. And here's this. How many of you had a winning record on your team last year? How many of you had a winning record, like on the results there? Great. So we can cause and affect this. You've got those results in that record, whatever it was, 6 and 4 results came from what kind of behavior? 6 and 4 behavior. But if you went 1 and 9 last year, let's at least be honest about cause and effect. 1 and 9 results come from 1 and 9 behavior. I mean, I was in front of an NFL team, and they went 2 and 14. Had the staff, the players, I said, guys, let me just open this up this way. What was your record? 2 and 14. Why did you get 2 and 14 results? Because you got 2 and 14 behavior. You don't do 14 and 2 behavior and go 2 and 14. Now, if you do 14 and 2 behavior, are you guaranteed that outcome? Of course not, because the ball is shaped funny, and there's a lot of stuff that ends up in results that's not in our control. But what? If you put 14 and 2 quality behavior, you are going to be in a bandwidth of results pretty reliable. The problem with behavior is this. It's the most complex variable in all of our worlds. There's nothing more complex than human behavior because people are crazy. Check this out. This will be interesting in here. Everybody look at the person to your right. Okay? Now check out the person to your left. One of those two people's crazy. There's at least 3 dudes in here going, oh shit, he knows. By the way, please don't forget in the midst of pointing at somebody else that somebody looked at you, okay? And for those of you that are married, you understand the craziest people aren't at work. And if you have kids, you understand the craziest person is not your spouse. And the point is not so much that we're crazy. The point is that there's a lot of stuff that goes into behavior. It's not just purely rational. It's heavily, heavily emotional. All of you who work in schools, your school district, your building, your classroom is not a rational environment. It's an emotional environment. It doesn't operate by rational rules. It operates by emotional rules. If it operated by rational rules, here's what we would do as leaders. We would look at the people we were responsible for leading, our players, our kids, our staff, our students, and we would say, I need you to do this in this way at this time, and then people would go out and, is that how it works in your world? So there's something besides, I mean, shoot, if we did that, half of us wouldn't have jobs and we could lead by email. But that's not how it works. People have moods, opinions, perspectives. You change a strategy and people sometimes resist. You ask people for higher performance and they sometimes say, not unless I get paid more. Not that educators would ever say that, but in other environments, and if you've heard that, that's real. I work in school districts. I've heard educators look at me and say, hey, I mean, we put this scale up. And I say, man, I put this scale up to educators. And I say, man, we coach to elite. I get educators raise their hand and they say, I don't get paid more to be elite. I can get paid the same if I'm average. That's real. And we're educators on that sometimes. And here's my challenge with educators. Wasn't planning on talking about this, but now I got fired up, so I'm going to. Here's my challenge with this. Let me take student athletes off the table for a second, and let me just look at educators, staff members. How many of you are in business, not in education? How many of you are in business? Same thing exists in business. Let me ask this. What happens to people, teachers, administrators, educators, who maybe are in the middle or the top third or so, and then they say, you know what? I'm going to go get better. I'm going to go be elite. I don't want to fall into a mountain of average. I don't want to be an average teacher, an average educator. And by the way, is there anything that says you're a bad person if you're in the middle? Is that a moral or ethical judgment? No. Do you know good people who are average at what they do? I sure do. Sometimes they're called friends. But what happens when a teacher wants to go from left to right on that scale and they want to leave the popular middle and they want to go get much, much better at their job, push the status quo, be optimistic, positive, and go out and be elite in their role, and they want to help other people and spread that? What happens? The mountain takes them down. In what way? I mean, is it like sabotage? And so it's one thing to be comfortable where they are. Like, let's say I'm part of that mountain. I'm in that mountain. It's one thing for me to be comfortable there, but what I heard you say is if you want to go there, I'm actually going to try to take you down a little bit. It's not just about me staying there, hey, you go do you. It's I got to get you to not go up there as well. Am I hearing you right? Anybody else ever see that? That's real. And it breaks my heart that it happens inside schools. Literally. Because the one place where we ought to be climbing towards elite and going up there, not because I said so, but because the profession deserves it, the kids deserve it, is to go up to the top. It's the one place that we deserve it. And if there's anything that hurts about that the most, and I'm going to take you at your word because I hear the same thing. By the way, what phrases do you hear sometimes from the middle when people start going from left to right on that scale? What are the phrases you hear from people in the middle? You think you're better than us? Overachiever? Anybody here stop, you're making me look bad? Yeah, we've always done it that way? Yeah. You're making me look bad is always one that's caught me by attention because when it comes to that, if anybody ever says that to me, my response is always really simple. I don't make you look bad. You do that fine yourself. But we wouldn't say that to somebody's face because we'd be concerned about hurting their feelings. But they are not concerned about hurting your feelings, try to tear you down. And here's the problem. The optimistic, positive people are the ones who are super concerned about hurting the other people's feelings, not in reverse. Cynics are just more committed to their craft than optimists. Am I wrong? Who are the first people to tap out and give up when all of a sudden all that stuff hits the fan? A cynic understands this. If I've worked in a place for 10 years, whether it's business or school, all I have to do is just keep it up. And eventually, the people who are optimistic are going to get too exhausted to continue. Basically, if I can create a little bit of this bottom arrow and then keep it that way, people will eventually give in. And for whatever reason in my mind that I would want that, then we accept it. But it's not fun. Raise your hand if you've ever worked in a place that felt like that bottom arrow. Who's ever worked in a place that felt like that? Yeah. It's frustrating. It's exhausting, isn't it? What's the drive into work like? Somebody the other day said, oh, God. I said, what's the drive out of work like? They said, oh, yes. But raise your hand if you've ever worked on a staff or in a place that felt like the top arrow. Who's ever worked in that kind of an environment? Yeah. And there's a price to pay for that top one, isn't there? Creating that alignment is a big price to pay. It's heavy. And so understand this, basic physics. You're going to pay a price for the bottom arrow, and you're going to pay a price for the top one. There is no painless path forward. All of them are difficult. All of them are challenging. The question is, what price are we going to pay for what it is that we actually want? There's no free option. So if we're going to build that on our team, you ever coached a team that felt like the bottom one? I mean, I could make a case that whatever pain it takes to create that top-aligned team pales in comparison to the pain of coaching an entire year or more with the bottom team. So, at least recognize there is no way forward where we don't feel that. And then recognize this. In the midst of it, and by the way, does strategy create that alignment? Can you game plan your way to everybody being aligned? Or does alignment have to be built through leadership, through culture, and aligning the behavior standards of everybody? Because your strategy will come and go. And I always think about it this way. How many of you believe, I tweeted this out the other day, and it got an interesting response. How many of you right now in your schools are underfunded? How many of you are underfunded? I mean, hands real high, no halfway hands. Okay, I'm surprised it's not more. How many of you are under-resourced? How about understaffed? Okay, so here's my question. If you're underfunded, under-resourced, and understaffed, is leadership, culture, and behavior more or less important to the success of your institution? There you go. But when we're underfunded, understaffed, under-resourced, what tends to happen in leadership, culture, and behavior? Where do we drift? To elite or to average? We drift to average because we think we have built-in excuses and reasons why we can't. It is the opposite of what we are trying to teach every young person in our control and responsibility. If you have lack of resources, you have to be even better at your job. Not because I said so, not because a leader told you so, but because that's what the environment demands from us. That is exactly what the environment demands from us. That's what we have to do. And so I want to make sure that we're, because what? What if your team, how many of your teams are, for the coming season, is your perspective right now, as a coach, we probably don't have as much talent as the other teams we're going to play. How many of you teams, talent, not one of your strengths? There you go. So do you have to be better or worse at leadership, culture, and behavior? Is it more or less important? More. Because if you don't have talent, you cannot afford to misplace your clicker. If you don't have talent, you can't afford to be the bottom team. You'll get your ass kicked. If you do have talent, you can't afford to be the bottom. Well, you can afford to be the bottom team if you have a ton of talent for a while. But then eventually what happens if you have a bunch of talent? Eventually, you come up with a team that has a bunch of talent, who competes real hard, and they're a little bit more aligned than you. And we've been duped into believing, oh, we don't need that alignment because we got big, tall, fast, strong players. We got tough kids. They don't trust each other, but they're tough, so they go out and they grind it out. And then some other team that doesn't have as much talent shows up, and you're like, how did we lose? Well, it was probably in the offseason. It was probably in the culture building process. And so what I want your attention today on is how to simply, systematically, and timelessly build these behavior skills. And I said this yesterday, and here's a visual representation. Be you, align with us. It is not about your background, how you grew up, how much money you do or don't have. It's not about your age, race, religion, orientation, whether you have 2 parents, divorced parents, 1 parent, no parents. Here's what this is about. You are a unique individual, and we have standards on our team. I want you to be the unique version of you and align it with where we're going. If that's not doable for you, we should find a team that you fit with. Some people will get their feelings hurt by that. Or you could allow the person that says, I'm a blue arrow, so I'm going the other way. And you can deal with the bottom team. And you pay that price. Here's the difference between these two. And this sounds controversial, but it really isn't when you think after today. Elite cultures, every elite culture on the planet is exclusive first and inclusive second, not the other way around. Elite cultures, by definition, elite, winning, high-standard cultures, by definition, not everybody wants to or can fit the standard of being part of that team. Why? Because in elite cultures, do they ask a lot or a little of you? Do they accept significant or only minor deviations? Well, they only accept minor deviations, right? They only accept little ones. If you're really deviating outside the lines of what the standards we're doing, you can't fit there. Not everybody can become a Navy SEAL. Not everybody qualifies for certain colleges. It's fascinating to me that at a college, we have exclusive standards on who can get in academically, because you have to be this good to get in here. We don't accept you into this college unless you are this good. And then, any other standards we start wiping off the plate. And maybe colleges aren't the best example because we want all kinds of stuff in there, but I'm looking at for a team, a business. There's a reason that Southwest Airlines or these Zappos, these other companies, why they have great cultures. The first is because they have exceptionally clear and exclusive standards. You just can't work there if you are anything but the kind of attitude that they want. And within that, they hire every single looking person you can possibly imagine. They hire every different background, every different race and religion, and they don't care about it. They just care, do you care about people? Do you have a great attitude? Are you a super hard worker? If so, man, come join us. But if you're this and you don't have a good attitude, sorry, can't work here. There's just no acceptance of that. And man, on our teams, that spells the difference. Because I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again for repetition. Who you are, or I should say this, we don't ever want to ask you to be somebody that you're not. Never ask you to be somebody you're not. In my company, the only thing I'll ever ask, be the best version of who you say you are. The first thing I'm going to ask is, who are you? And that's my job to decide, hey, are you the kind of person that we'd like to have in here? The second is, I just want you to be the best version of that. And if it's aligning with where we're going, we'll go make it happen. So how do we actually do that? Today, we're going to talk about something, the R factor. And this is the system for building behavior skills that win. The first thing is understand you own 20 square feet of your team, and so does every other staff member and player. 20 square feet is just an analogy. It's just to understand something better. Don't get hung up on the number 20. 10 sounded too small. 30 seemed too big. Okay? 20 was good. When I teach this in Europe, I try to be, nice and convert it to the metric, but I called it 20 square meters, and I realized that was like a space this whole room, and that was too much to be responsible for. So I actually don't know what that is in the metric system. Point is that the metric system, little tangent there, had no point. Okay, that's the point. Now, the point is this. You control 20 square feet, and inside your 20 square feet, you and only you choose how to behave. You and only you choose what to believe. Our job as coaches and as educators, as leaders, is this. Own our 20 square feet and build the culture from the bottom up. Own our 20 square feet and then equip the people in our responsibility how to own their 20 square feet. And I appreciate being here compared to maybe some other places or environments where we work. And we have Fortune 500 clients, and we work in school districts and sports teams and the sort of the Division I football and basketball world. I appreciate being here in a community-oriented room, because you don't just have 20 square feet of your school or your team, you also have 20 square feet of your communities. And if you look at communities and teams that are doing well and are upswinging, it's because people are taking responsibility for their piece of that. I own part of this thing. The good of my team, of my unit, the good of my defensive back group, the good of my point guard group, the good of my back row group, right? The good of my part of the golf squad, it first starts with my 20 square feet. The success of my high school, if I'm a teacher or a principal or an administrator or a counselor, the success of my high school culture doesn't start with Nancy getting better in her 20 square feet. Sorry, Nancy, I don't know if there's one in here. The success of the school starts with me getting better in my 20 square feet. Nancy and Steve and Bill and Jim and Karen, they're going to get better in their 20 square feet once they start experiencing things from me in my 20 square feet. that are pulling in a direction that we want to go. This is about building a culture worth buying into, not asking for buy-in from the start. We ask for buy-in too much. Stop asking for buy-in. Create something people want to buy into and earn the right to let people buy what it is that you're putting out there without you having to ask for it. That's when we build something great. Too often we design this as a top-down. Build a mission, vision, values, and then go tell everybody, please go live that. This is about equipping people in their 20 square feet. And as a coach and as a leader and as a parent, whose 20 square feet do you have total control over? Only one person's. Who's that? Yeah. Whose do you not have control over? Anybody else's. So here's the hard part. Leadership is the act of taking responsibility for something you do not control. I think that's the shortest line in America right now. I'm going to put an ad out. Everybody who wants to take responsibility for a bunch of stuff they don't control, show up to my house Saturday morning, 6 a.m. It'd be like me and 3 of my employees. You know, the point is, if you don't want to take responsibility for 85 young men and their beliefs and their behaviors, think long and hard whether we want a leadership role. That's truth with love. If you don't want to take responsibility for 16 young women, maybe coaching a volleyball team is not your thing. Because if they're under our control, or they're under our responsibility, not control, if they're under our charge, we are responsible for what they believe and how they behave in their 20 square feet, meaning this: if their belief and their behavior is not up to the standard, who was the first person that did not fulfill their job? Us. It's us. Because that is, or it is not, our job as leaders and coaches. And here's what people ask me all the time. And, you know, we can talk about this, maybe do some Q&A at the end. People ask this all the time. How do you know, I was going to switch back, but, you know, think of the 10-80-10, right? How do you know what about the person who's not aligning? How many of you have ever had, like, a really difficult kid on your team? Yeah. I was going to say, how many of you have coached for at least 1 year? How many of you were at one point a teenager? Okay, just checking. How do you know? How do you know when there's just nothing else you can do? I'm a believer in very simple standards. Here's how you know. The moment you know when it's time to cut is the second you're not willing to invest in that young person anymore. The second you mentally and emotionally check out is the moment either you or them has to go. Because now we're just not doing our job. But as long as you're willing to pour into that athlete and that young person, keep them around. The second reference point is whenever they start to cause damage to the larger culture or other people and they're harming somebody other than just themselves. And now we would be serving one but losing 5 or 10 more because of their influence. That's obviously the other challenge. But man, sometimes, and if you do this, here's one of the unfortunate realities. It's one of the unfortunate realities of being a coach and leading young people is you're not going to win them all. You'll go 4 years, you will pour your heart, you will pour your soul into a young person and their 20 square feet, and during the time when they're underneath your charge, they just won't get it. And sometimes they're going to pay a big price for that. Sometimes they just won't get it, and they don't pay much of a price, and they pay it in the next stage of their life. That's something we have to embrace before we get into those positions, because that is a reality of this work. This is an imperfect system that we operate in an imperfect world. We have to be ready to pour ourselves into young people, knowing full well we will not be perfect ourselves, and we will not have a perfect record of getting their 20 square feet aligned with where we're trying to go. As long as we are getting better over time, we're going to keep getting better at our job rather than asking kids to get better at theirs. It's a duel, okay? So let me get into the system. There's 2 skill sets. Everybody has behavior skills and job skills, or coaching skills in this context. Behavior skills are skills that drive success everywhere in life. Job skills are the technical knowledge. You know, your sports specific or your school, whatever it happens to be. Have you ever worked with somebody who was really experienced, a lot of time in the profession, maybe even technically good, subject matter expert, but they were a pain in the ass to work with? Don't look right at the person. Okay. I ask that, and sometimes people are like, he's talking about you. You know, the easy question is, have you ever worked with that person? Most of us, the answer is going to be yes. The harder question is, have you ever been that person? That one can get. Ask a couple more questions. Your field, which one of those skill sets tend to get hired for? Job skills or skills? Mostly job skills. What do people tend to get fired for? Which one's to a person? Which has more issues in the role? See the pattern? We're just much more concrete about our sport than we are about a teach and build mindset. We gravitate to quote so that we gravitate to the mechanic of teach emotional management. LB don't necessarily teach the specifics of it. We'll coach cover 2. We will coach pivot technique, free throw angle. We'll coach one own. But man, once it's teaching something, kind of pull a book or something. And I want to make sure that we're about this because this, you know, I come back to this. Skills are increasingly becoming cheap and a commodity. Behavior skills, and they've always been where we differentiate. There's never been access to how to sport, frankly, learn anything. Skills. And we have to be great. But let me just, sometimes people don't get the full picture. You ever worked with somebody who had a great attitude for their job? Yeah, those people are being too, okay? It's like this is not great, I can do anything. Okay? Like specifically a bunch that we need. So all behavior skills? No, of course not. This is about what other is about being behavior skill elite and job elite. That's what this is about. Or being really, really don't cause it to have a good business or school conversations with you. If your ego is too big and you can't take feedback, we're not a particularly good basketball team this year. Because there's you because you don't listen or what it has to be. And then what's the source of actually creating that on a team? Personal growth, personal breakthroughs, personal change, self-awareness. Whatever you want to see in the team, the people. If a team, get you into culture right. I think this is an interesting mechanic. How many of you sports do we have in the room? Just we got football. Track, swimming, diving. So here's what's great about building a team culture. Whether you got 100 or 85 people on your team, or you got 7, here's what's interesting about culture. To start to change a culture, the only thing you need is a handful of tolerant people. All you need in changing culture is, if you got 100, you need maybe 10, maybe 7 players who are intolerant of anything except the standard that we are asking for. The problem is when what? It's when the people on the top tolerate all of the average. Because the average wants all kinds of standards. We need a handful of people. You don't need 100% of your people. We're not going to get that. In a school district, here's what we need. In a school district, if you're a teacher, you need like 10 or 15 teachers who just say, we just are not going to accept complaining anymore, period. If you complain and you do it out loud, I'm going to call you out publicly. After about the 5th, 6th, 7th time, you're sitting in the teacher's lounge and somebody starts complaining and you point at them and say, you're a pretty big complainer. And about the 7th time that happens, guess what that person's probably going to stop doing in the teacher's lounge? Yeah, they'll probably stop going in. And it won't be a complaining area anymore, right? But what? People don't like when what? They do something and then somebody points it out and goes, no. Down on the fact that people like you are just going to keep. So to change a culture, we need a handful of people to have that courage. Start saying, this is our standard. We're not going to accept less than that. No, we're not going to accept less than that. We're doing it this way. Let's go. And how long do you think it would take a culture to change? And I mentioned it yesterday. How long would it take those behaviors being in place before you could reasonably start to see people's behavior and results start to change? 2 years. Do you have the courage and do you have the strength? Do you have the heart and the backbone to go 2 years on that? That's the question. I believe that courage is in you. Let it run. I believe that courage is in you. Let that courage run, because people are counting on that. So in order to do this, what we've got to do is we've got to apply discipline over default. There is a line in life. On one side is discipline, on the other side is default. The word discipline comes from the word disciple, which is a Latin word which means student. A disciple is a student. A discipline is a study. Discipline is not compliance. That's following rules. Discipline is not obedience. That's following authority. Discipline is choice. Discipline is not rigidity. Discipline is choosing moment to moment with intention, purpose, and skill. The act of discipline is training yourself how to make intentional, purposeful, and skillful decisions that are likely to produce the results that you either want or are responsible for. And let me do this. All the parents in the room, stand up for me if you would. All the parents, stand up for me. Okay? I have a 2-year-old. Okay? I got a 2-year-old, so we're working on discipline. Okay? But here's what I want to, just for you parents that are standing up, I want to appeal to your heart a little bit on this. Here's what I want to ask you. If your kids are disciplined, academically, athletically, and socially, your children, when they graduate high school or college, and they've been disciplined, not perfect, just disciplined, how many options will they have when they graduate? They'll have a ton. They will have so much freedom, so much flexibility, so many choices and decisions and paths that they can go down. And you know what? There might be some ones that aren't the best ones for them, but even if they don't know what path to go down, if they've been disciplined, any path they go down is going to start being a good direction, and they will figure it out from there. Now let me ask you an alternative. If your children are default academically, athletically, and socially, they're good kids, but they're just impulsive, autopilot, and resistant in school, in their social life, and in their athletics. When they graduate high school or college, how many options will they have? They will have minimal. They will be stuck. They will want things they have not prepared for. Which is a more option-rich way of living for your children, a disciplined life or a default life? And for those of you whose kids aren't married yet, what kind of individual do you want them to eventually find to be their partner in life? A disciplined person or a default person? We want them to be disciplined. This is fundamental to human life, not just sports, not just education. This is what we're trying to equip. And parents, is there an end to your kids' obedience to you? Yep. There comes a moment where they don't do obedience anymore. And when obedience ends and we're not there, and we're not watching, and we don't have our hand, and we don't have that accountability directly to them, what do we want them to have? The ability to make their own decisions. And those decisions happen with discipline to go build the life they're trying to build to be who they are. That's part of our job, whatever that needs to look like for you. So thank you, guys. Can sit down. Thank you. Now, let me apply it to us a little differently. What's the most popular New Year's resolution? Okay, anybody in this room confused how that process works? We know what to do, we just don't always do it with. We see what to do, but then the impulse gets us. We get caught on autopilot, and we know exactly what we should do, but we are resistant to doing what we know needs to be done. But when we want to go get in shape, we rarely go implement a discipline system. We rarely go work on our behavior skills and our mental skills. We go buy a new diet. We go eat a salad and then get on a scale to see how much weight we've lost. I don't care what you look like or feel like. I want you to be the best version of you at whatever that is. But here's what I do care about. I do care about people who carry around a lot of guilt and anxiety and stuff with their own physical bodies, and they're not even doing anything strategically that's going to help them apply it, because you already know what to do. You don't need to read the internet again. You don't need to buy what that guy is selling again. Take what you already know how to do and go put it in place with discipline. And by the way, don't do it for 8 weeks. Do it for how long? Like, I'm blown away by how many people will start to do something for 8 weeks, and then somewhere in like week 3 or 4, miss a few days, and then scrap the entire 8 weeks because somewhere in their mind, 5 weeks of eating right doesn't count. Only the 8. Like, why not just go say, I'm going to do that for 12 months? You do it for 12 months, guaranteed. But instead, it's just much easier to BCD. Blame something else, complain about our circumstances, and get defensive when anybody points it out. Any BCD exist in your work environments? What's the cost of BCD, by the way? It's heavy. And it's not just financial, because I could make a case, what would you be able to produce and what would be the financial benefit of not BCDing, and I think that's a very real case. I want to ask a more particular one. What's the personal cost of BCD? More pointed, what if I could snap my fingers and you didn't have to deal with anybody's blaming, complaining, and defensiveness for the rest of the year? No, you didn't have to deal with BCD at work, and you didn't have to deal with BCD in your team, and you didn't have to deal with BCD at home. You didn't have to deal with BCD on the road. To say nothing of whether you did it on the road or not, but what would that be worth to you? That's big, man. So take BCD out of your life. Don't play around with this. Don't play around. Number one, just don't do it. People ask, well, how? I don't know. How do you not skydive every day? You just don't do it. How many of you would never skydive? How do you do that? Well, I wake up, and then I spend my whole day not doing any of it. How do you not complain? You just don't. So the second thing, what should I do instead? Here's a really wide open path for you, because I found this is the only thing people fight back on us for. I don't know why, but there's this unspoken mindset and belief that I'm going to continue to complain until somebody presents me with a better option. So I'll give you one, anything. Like for the rest of your life, if you're like, should I complain or should I do anything else? The right answer is do anything else. My wife just specifically did not do that thing I asked her to do. Should I complain? Nope. You got that? You want me to slow it down a little bit for you? Just don't do it. Second or third thing, so no BCD. Do anything else. Singing, fine. Push-ups, fine. Silence, fine. Do anything. Solve, cool. When you are ready to get strategic, other than blaming, complaining, that's default. The discipline approach on the opposite side of BCD is always one of two things. It is resolution or it is resilience. Keep it simple. If you can solve it, start moving towards resolution. If you can't solve it, get started on resilience. Because you cannot solve every problem that you face. You are going to be in situations that you can do nothing about, and you are going to be 100% responsible for how you deal with that situation. One of the earliest truths that my dad taught me, and I'm so grateful to him for this. I'm so grateful my dad taught me at a young age. He said, BK, you are responsible for how you respond to circumstances you didn't create. Figure it out, my man. And now at 36, that's just a big thank you, Dad. Thank you. I didn't ask for that. I'm on the hook for it now. It's a problem right now. It's a huge problem. And so instead of that, here's what we want to do. We want to apply E+R = O. Here's how simple and immediate this is. What is the only piece in this equation you have control over? Response. We don't even have to get taught it. We know right away, intuitively. I don't control events. I do control my response, and here's what's not quite intuitive. You don't control outcomes. Us type A's, we think we do. Coaches, we think we do. Control freaks, especially you guys. But you don't control outcomes. You'll get the outcomes you want when you are good enough. And if there's outcomes that you don't have, it's because we just weren't good enough. Doesn't matter, get better. Doesn't matter, get better. I know we don't control outcomes because if you controlled outcomes, what would your record have been last year? If you controlled outcomes, what would be in your bank account? If you controlled outcomes, where would your second home be? What would your relationships look like? How would your kids treat you and your spouse treat you at all times? How would parents interact with you? How much credibility and trust would you have? Who would be in your life if you controlled outcomes? Who would be out of your life if you controlled outcomes? Don't answer that. But there's a mindset that comes with this, because there's really simple equation, and there's a skill set, but the mindset is what's I think is really interesting, because it's the foundation for everything. I don't control events. I'm not special for anything. I'm going to deal with every single thing that comes into my life. Some of the worst stuff I'm going to deal with, I was the one who instigated it. Self-awareness. I'm the one who created half the bad events that I don't want to deal with. But I created them starting, say, 2 years ago, or last week, or whatever it is. And the only two events that I'm guaranteed to get in my life are opportunity and adversity. I got to be ready to respond to them. The second piece is I do control my response. If I say, think, believe, or do something, it is nobody else's fault but mine. Nobody else is responsible for what goes on inside me, what comes out of my action, what comes out of my mouth. That is 100% mine. You guys can influence me, pressure me. My wife can compel me. My business can say things to me, but nobody chooses those things but me. If I'm not strong enough to deal with my external circumstances, it is not my circumstances' fault, it is mine. And if there's outcomes that I want, I'm on the hook for having a response good enough to go get the things that I want, because the world is not bringing it to me. And that's where the doesn't matter, get better mindset comes in. If there's outcomes I want that I'm not getting, the reason is because I'm not good enough. Doesn't matter, get better. If I'm first in the league, doesn't matter, get better. If I was 500, doesn't matter, get better. The way I functionally think of that is this. In my life, the quality of my marriage is based on the quality of the last conversation I had with my wife. That's how I think about it. Because you ever had like a great week, and then on like Friday night, you said something wrong? Did you get credit for the week? Thank you. Then you have that awkward drive and you're going to dinner because you wanted to have fun, and it's just not a fun night for the rest of the... The quality of my marriage, it's based on the quality of the last conversation I had with my wife. Quality of my business is based on the quality of the last engagement that I did. You guys don't care how well I spoke to a group 6 months ago. You don't care whether I was brilliant or off or on then. I'm on the hook right now. And so E+R = O, that's the way that life works. My job is actually getting good at that. And then it's about putting the skill set in place. What outcome do I want? What event do I have? What response do I need? And I love how seamless this is to integrate in any situation in your life. That's driving. What do you want? Get home safe, on time if we can. What do I have? A road and people that don't care about me. Laws that if I break them, the popo's going to find me. That's it. So the response is obvious. Speed like hell and get mad at everyone. No. Other way around. No, the response is obvious. I mean, on a real, 40,000 people a year die in cars. We don't talk about it. We get in our car thinking, it's all you who are the idiots and maniacs. Those of you who go too slow, you're idiots. Those of you who go too fast, you're maniacs. We are the only safe drivers in all of New Mexico. This is an intervention, actually, what I brought you guys here for. No, it's slow down. It's relax. You ever been caught in traffic and BCD'd? Show of hands, be honest. You ever been stuck in traffic and you just complained like hell? Yeah. Did traffic get better for you? Did traffic go, it's out of your way? Nope. You were already in traffic. You just added being pissed off to the mix. Don't do that. Okay, remember I told you people are crazy? So the execution is this, but I also think that's ball. That's golf. That's wrestling. That's bowling. That's teaching. What do I want? What's the situation that I have? What response do I need for the circumstance I'm in to get the thing that I want to produce? That's third down. That's the last 30 seconds of a basketball game. That's the 17 green. It's the last medley in the swim race. It's dealing with new state regulations inside your schools. Circumstances you didn't ask for, environments you didn't sign up to teach in. But they're there. Is that real? They're there, and we're on the hook for it. And so the skill set is about responding with discipline over default. You just integrate the two things. Every response is either discipline, intention, purpose, and skill, or default, impulse, autopilot, resistance. The difference between the two responses create very different outcomes. Get on the path that you want to be on and keep moving down that path. And I will give you this heads up. The heads up is this: that default path is quick, careless, and convincing. It convinces you you can get away with it for a while. But there's always a cost. And so here's what the skill set comes down on execution. 6 disciplines. I'll share these and then we'll wrap. Number 1, press pause before you respond. As simple as it is, slow down and think. Word of caution on this one: everybody knows they need to do it, and they love it because they don't actually have to do anything yet. So everybody says, ooh, press pause. I come back after a year with a client. I say, how's it going? And they said, good. I go, what are you doing? Mostly just pausing, a bunch of pausing. Basically all pausing right now. Yeah. Okay, yeah, but you pause so that you can get your mind right. You pause so you can bring discipline in here and start changing the lens through which you are looking at your circumstances to put you in a position to step up and do or don't, succeed or fail, yes or no. Pausing doesn't do much good if we stay sitting still. You know, how many of your sport is a fast-paced sport? Yeah. When you think about pausing, you're like, what? Pause? No. But what happens to elite athletes? What do? They say, what happens to the game for them? Does the game actually slow down? No, the game goes faster, but what happens to them mentally? They process faster. That's what this is about. Pausing is being able to pause in your mind while the world is going 100 miles an hour. Pausing is the ability, when somebody asks you a question in a live conversation, you don't have that impulsive retort in a reaction, but you press pause, you process something, and you respond with discipline by asking a question or telling the truth or whatever it would be. That requires having a certain mental focus and skill, and then most importantly, you have to actually do the thing. You got to step into the gym, get onto the field, open your mouth and have the conversation. You got to start to implement the thing, whatever it is. And then it's going to work and it's not going to work, and time goes by and you have to make adjustments. I think what I am most concerned about, just from my perspective and whatever credibility I have, listen with that, and if I have none, this won't mean much to you. But what I'm most concerned about with adult professionals is not bad behavior or bad habits, because those get washed out and wiped out and they get found out. I'm more concerned right now with adult professionals who have behaviors that used to work that don't work as well anymore, and they're not adjusting. And we're getting lulled into a discipline that worked 10 years ago, and it's just not as good anymore. I just like doing it a lot. Good habits that aren't as productive as they used to be. That's the bigger danger in my view. 5th one is make a difference. Huge. Your response is an event for other people. You create circumstances other people have to deal with. And the last one is build skill. Every response is a skill that can be taught, trained, implemented, and developed systematically. And so watch how timeless these are. Nothing new. There's the PowerPoint, very 2018. Okay, let's wind it back 4,000 years. 6 things: think, feel, act, change, team, learn with discipline. We've been trying to teach this stuff since we were carving it in stone. I just want to make sure that we're being systematic about it. That's what we got to do. There's not a waking moment that I don't have to do one or more of those things in my own life. And whatever success I have in my marriage, as a dad, as a husband, as a member of my community, as a member of this country, as a contributor to you guys, it's 100% determined by how I do those 6 things in my own life first, in my 20 square feet. And if I'm not good enough, I can't bring it for you guys. And we're all on that. Does that make sense? Okay. Here's the last thing for you. Trust the system, do the work, get better. Trust the system, get in it, use it. Do the work. Sweat equity. 2 years. Get better. You're going to have success, you're going to have failure, you're going to have adversity, you're going to have opportunity. Doesn't matter, get better. It is always the right answer. And here's what I'll give you guys this. That's where you can connect with me on social. I send out a daily discipline email. It's 1 to 3 paragraphs. I send it out Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. If you are interested in that, you can get it there. Please do not do what some people do. Sign up for that, and then tell me I email you too much. Okay? It's called daily discipline. Guess how often it comes? If you want occasional discipline, go find that list. It's not this one, okay? That's Monday through Friday, okay? Now, I don't send more than that. I just send the one at 6 a.m. It's our fastest growing list, and it's just individual messages for owning your 20 square feet on the personal, the professional, and on the leadership side. And for me to you guys, one, thank you for what you do. Thank you for the role that you play. Thank you for pouring yourselves into young people. Please remember to treat each other just as well as you treat your students and your athletes. Be great to one another. And maybe most importantly, bring the best version of you to the people who care most about you. Bring the best you have to the people who give you unconditional love and aren't going to ask for everything from you at the end of your workday. Don't be so exhausted pouring yourself into everybody else that you can't go be that best version of you at home as well. Your kids deserve it, you deserve it, and your families do too. So thank you guys, appreciate it. I'll stick around for some questions.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and